Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest match preview. We are back after a 2-week hiatus to discuss Nottingham Forest's upcoming home match against Fulham at the City Ground on Friday evening, discussing a match against a high-flying Fulham side currently sat in 10th in the Premier League. If you're new to these kinds of videos, the format goes as follows. We start with an initial discussion on our opposition, providing some context to their season thus far. Then we talk a little bit about the stats and dissect some of their key players before talking a little bit about the tactics, followed by my score predictions for the match. So if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single match preview or upcoming content over the international break. And with that being said, let's get talking about Marco Silva's Fulham. So as usual, we start with a discussion giving you some context behind the side over the last couple of years and what a season it was last time out for Fulham, waltzing to the Championship League title pretty easily under Marco Silva being promoted. I think about 6 or 7 games left to spare ahead of ourselves and Bournemouth, breaking records left, right and centre, including the goal scoring record for a single player during a season, with Aleksandar Mitrovic hitting 43 goals in 44 league games. And heading into the season, throughout the summer, they spent about £50 million on a group of 11 players, which included players with a great deal of Premier League experience. Players like Andreas Pereira, Willian, Dan James and Carlos Vinicius. Not players who are going to set the world alight, but who bulk out the squad, offer great quality and depth in quality, and also, of course, that Premier League experience that they desperately need. And I think it's pretty hard to argue against them having the best start to the season of the 3 promoted sides, currently sitting in 10th in the Premier League, having had some very decent results in the opening weeks, including a 2-2 draw on the opening day against Liverpool, and Mitrovic, of course, their talisman, bagging 6 in 6. A great start to the campaign for the Cottagers. So now we've given the context, let's start talking about the stats and dissecting this Fulham team and what has made them thus far the 10th best side in the Premier League at the time of recording. Well, I would argue that their attack is probably the strongest facet of their game, 8th in the league for goals scored, although they are 11th for XG generated, get a bit of that Mitro magic in front of goal, although they do generate the 16th most chances in the Premier League per match. Now, the amount of shots they take per 90 is actually less than Nottingham Forest. Despite this, they've been one of the better teams in front of goal, and a big part of this is their clinical nature in front of goal, an 11% conversion rate, the 6th highest in the Premier League. And you can probably imagine with the players that they do have in the final third, they're generally going to get the rub of the green on their chances. Mitrovic in particular, a very good finisher in the box. And when we flip things over and look at their defence, we can see they're not quite as strong, but still fairly solid in this facet of their game. 12th for goals conceded and 12th for shots against per 90 minutes, although expected goals would actually suggest they would be 19th in the Premier League for goals conceded. Now, the big anomaly in that, of course, is the XG number. Despite the fact they don't actually concede a lot of opportunities, they concede high quality opportunities. If we look at proximity to goal of shots conceded, they are 4th in the Premier League. They have the 4th closest to goal distance with their shots, and also bringing Bernd Leno into the team has acted in giving them a lot more quality between the sticks. Despite conceding these high quality opportunities, they have a European quality goalkeeper between the sticks who can save and potentially prevent goals for them. Essentially, having a goalkeeper of his quality at a side like Fulham really widens the gap between goals conceded and expected goals conceded. And in fact, the Arsenal man is having a really solid start to his Fulham career, maintaining around a 75% save percentage in his first 2 games for Fulham, the 6th most saves in the Premier League as well, despite the fact he's only played 4 of the 6 matches available. Moreover, if you look at something like post-shot expected goals, which is a really good way of determining the quality of the shot-stopping abilities of a goalkeeper, Fulham are the 3rd highest side in the Premier League specifically. Bernd Leno is the 3rd best goalkeeper in the Premier League for this metric, being 1.8 goals above expected at this stage of the season, which in the long run, it might not sound like too much, but could add a few more points to their tally, which again, it could make the difference between survival and being comfortably in mid-table come the end of the campaign. And of course, at the opposite end of the pitch is their star man, Aleksandar Mitrovic, already bagging 6 goals in the opening 6 games of this season. And it does appear that the Portuguese Marco Silva has got the best out of the Serbian striker, really seeing the best form really that we've seen of him since he joined Fulham and generally joined English football. He's in the top 10% of forwards in Europe this season for XG and shots per 90 minutes, being well above the 4-shot barometer for a really top quality European striker, and also chips in defence defensively being pretty solidly in the top 10% of most, if not all, defensive actions when looking amongst forwards in Europe. Overall, Fulham are just a really solid prospect this season, which sounds really weird with how yo-yoing they have been over the last few seasons. It looks likely to be the campaign amongst the ones in recent history where they stay in the Premier League, maintaining their Premier League status, and would be able to push on into sort of mid-table positions in seasons coming up. And this has really been yielded by some smart investments and also some good experience in their squad who've got good amounts of Premier League experience. And like I say, in general, a very solid Premier League side with a really good Premier League manager. Speaking of which, I think it's probably time that we start talking about their tactics, dissecting what we can expect as Forest fans on the day from this very decent Fulham side. Under Marco Silva, Fulham have been pretty flexible in the way they can line up by a game-to-game basis. Generally, though, it is a back four system, either a 4-2-3-1, as you can see here. They could also drop something closer to a 4-3-3. They could also play something closer to a 4-1-4-1 shape, something a little bit more defensively solid than a 4-3-3. Generally, though, it is a back four system, width from the fullbacks and the attacking players, and also really solid with a number 2 or 3 in the midfield. In terms of individual personnel, I think that Andreas Pereira in this number 10 position has had a really good start to his Fulham career. He's able to come deep into positions where he can receive the ball, turn and look to spread play. He can press up into more aggressive high-line positions, particularly in a defensive shape. He can press up alongside Mitrovic and create a front two that forces the ball into wider positions. And he can also drift into wider positions and is generally quite a good nuisance in the final third and a really productive and active player in the final third. Of course, Mitrovic is the pivot of this attack, looking to receive the ball long from his defensive players or from his midfielders or even from his number 10. His ability to hold up play, bring other players into play by dropping into deep positions to link up play or press up right against the back line in order to stretch play, create space in the central positions of the pitch for his number 10 or for his inside forwards to receive the ball is really unparalleled among strikers in the Premier League. Very much an unconventional modern day striker. You don't see a lot of players like him in the modern game, and it really allows these inside forwards to come inside, really impact the game, but they can also come into wider areas like of Cabano, D. Cordova-Reid, able to really stretch play. We saw this against Liverpool on the opening day of the season where they really caused problems to that Liverpool backline by stretching them and giving lots of space in the central areas for Mitrovic and Pereira to occupy. However, the lineup though in the final third doesn't really matter. They've got two really solid defensive midfield players, Harrison Reed able to make these box-to-box runs, and Palhinha being more of a traditional screening number 6 kind of central midfielder, really solid defensive player who's actually impressed me quite a lot in the opening weeks of the season. Not necessarily the most flashy player. He's not going to progress the play particularly aggressively, but he's a really solid defensive presence. He's able to cover the wings when the wing backs push up and look to affect play in the final third. And I think for a team like Fulham, really going to prove to be a good signing in the long run. Generally, the emphasis in this team is a structured, controlled, playing out from the back kind of system, playing the ball for each phase of the play, getting the ball into the final third and looking to create chances. And they have a really multifaceted approach to this. They can do more conventional play out from the back. They can go long to Mitrovic, obviously his ability to receive play and bring other players into play. They have a lot of pace in wide areas, so they can look to get the ball over the top and into the wide areas for progression. What they have is a really well-rounded, well-suited team that can occupy and approach Premier League games in so many different kinds of ways that it really can sometimes make them quite unpredictable, but generally they're going to look to be structured in the way they approach it. Now, when Forest actually did beat Fulham at the back end of last season, a 1-0 win, I believe, at the Cottage. I think Zinchenko got the goal pretty late in the game. It was as a result of Forest's ability to turn the ball high up the pitch and cause massive problems to this Fulham side. The obvious idea for Fulham is going to be to maintain possession, particularly against a side like Forest, who aren't necessarily the most comfortable or would not choose to maintain possession in the midfield. And that'll just really allow us to come onto them, look for those high turnovers that Forest are so good at and generate quite a lot of their chances from. And in general, I think if we're going to get anything from this game, this is the approach we need to go for if we're going to get it. Overall, in terms of the scoreline, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw at the City Ground for the Reds. You might be thinking of being slightly pessimistic, considering that Fulham are certainly no special team, although they have some good individuals and are having a good start to their season. You would imagine they're going to be pushing European football, so maybe I'm being slightly pessimistic on that count, but we have lost our last 3 league games, and I do think getting a positive result would be getting a point, maybe keeping a clean sheet in the process, but I think it's probably going to be more likely a 1-1 draw against Fulham on the day. Of course, though, let me know what you think the scoreline is going to be in the comment section down below and what you think of my analysis of Fulham and potentially who their key players could be in this match. And whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you later.